How's it going? And welcome to Learn the Language. Now, this channel is basically going to be about just teaching programming. And I'm going to take the approach of basic beginner, like you've never programmed before. Also, I'm not scripting any of these videos. I'm just going to hit record and go with it. I'm going to have a basic idea of what each lesson is going to entail, but I'm not going to sit here and script up and have the perfect classroom setting. Nope, that's not for me. Ain't doing that shit. But yeah, like I said, it's gonna, basic knowledge is how we're going to start off for the beginner person. And we will get more complex as we get into it, but you obviously clicked on the C++ or the introduction to C++, and that's all this is going to be. This series is going to be really short. This is going to be the hardcore basics, and that's it. And once you get done with that, we will move on and we'll actually start doing some game programming, because that's what I know more of. So you'll follow me with that, and we'll be using framework that the person that I learned from has created. And that being said, for this first series, Introduction to C++, you do not have to use Visual Studio. The code we're going to use will work with any compiler or IDE, whatever you want to call it, it'll work with that. But I highly suggest that you do a Google search and you download Visual Studio 2017. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. If you can't do a Google search and download some openly available software, then programming is probably not for you. Now, like I said, there's many compilers and programs you can use. Notepad++, I can't even think of some of the other ones. But when we get to the game programming, you will have to use Visual Studio. You don't have a choice. So I'm just going to recommend that you start now and you get Visual Studio. Now, if some of you have a lot of problems setting up Visual Studio, like you got it downloaded and like you're having problems getting it to work or the settings to go through, I will make a separate video showing how to do that. But for now, we're just going to progress as if everything went smoothly. Now, why would you want to use C++? You've probably heard it's difficult, it's hard, it's more complex, and all that is kind of true. But C++ is probably, arguably, one of the most powerful languages there is. Just the amount of stuff you can do is unreal. The amount of control you have is amazing. But it is a little bit harder than, say, Java or Python or something like that. It's very picky. And you will see, like, capitalization matters. And you have to have each line perfect. You miss one little semicolon, and it's going to throw your whole program off and not going to work. You could have 2 million lines of code, you miss one semicolon, the whole program will fail. And that turns some people away, but you will see that with practice, it's really not that hard to learn and to use and implement and do the things you want to do with. So, let's just jump into this, and we're going to do what pretty much everyone does for their first program. We're going to do what's called a Hello World, a little introduction. So what I want you to do is open up Microsoft Visual Studio, and you should get this page right here. I want you to click Create New Project. And since I'm recording, my computer will probably be slow. And we're going to do a empty project. And let's just name this, well, if I can type. It'd be hard to do a programming tutorial if I can't even type, huh? Hello World. And just click OK. Just let this save to wherever it wants. So if you really want to change it, you can. I'm just going to let it save to the default location. And it should be opening up. Super slow. I'm running OBS to go with this, so I don't have that great of a computer as it is. There we go. So now this is open. Now, for me, it's on the left-hand side. For you, it could be on the other side. You have what's called the Solution Explorer. And we'll get more into that in the future, but basically this is where all your files for your program is where you can access them. And at the bottom, you have an output menu. And if you have any errors or you want to look at the build information, but you'll understand what I mean later as we get more into it. I'm just showing you where this stuff is now. I don't expect you to know any of this. If you do know all of this, you're probably watching the wrong series. But your output menu's here at the bottom. So here's what we want to do to get started. You want to click Source Files and then right click it, Add, New Item. And we are going to add a .cpp file, a C++ file. So click that, and let's rename this to Hello World. And make sure you have the .cpp extension at the bottom, and then click Add. Now this is giving us a new window here, and you can see we can start typing here. And this kind of like Notepad for programming. So to get started, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to type a couple of include statements, and that's another one of those things we'll get into later, get more in depth. But basically what it does is it gives you access to files you wouldn't normally have. It tells the compiler, hey, we're going to be using this stuff, you need to know about it. That's basically what it's doing. So I want you to type include, and you're going to use a less than sign, and sometimes you will see that it went ahead and put a greater than sign there. What is that called? Now I can't think of what that's called. IntelliSense, that's what it's called. It will auto-complete things for you, stuff like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't, so don't rely on IntelliSense. It can be moody. So in between these two brackets here, we're going to type IO stream, just like that. And then right underneath that, we're going to do another include statement. Why is this being funny? There we go, it's acting right now. Now we're going to include, going to do a less than sign. We're going to include type C, STD, C standard, LIB. C standard library is what that stands for. Now, what we're going to use that for is frowned upon, but whatever. We're only going to be using Windows application like this just to learn some of the basics. Then we're going to move on to bigger and better things. Something else that's frowned upon is this right here. You're going to type using namespace std semicolon. Make sure you put that semicolon there. In most places, excluding your include statements, every line of code is going to end with the semicolon. That's telling the compiler that, hey, this is the end of this line, move on to the next. Forgetting that semicolon can just completely screw your program up. And you'll have some big program and you miss that one semicolon and you're wrecking everything trying to figure out what went wrong, and all it was you forgot a semicolon. So now double space, and you want to type int main. We're starting your main function. Then you're going to put parentheses, open and close, just like that. Then you want to hit enter, and you want to put brackets just like this. And you want to close it with, what is that? That's an open bracket, and then put a close bracket there. And what this is your main function. This is where all the stuff that the compiler is going to do, this is where the meat of your program is going to be. Now you want to type return 0 semicolon. And we'll get, like I said, all of this should be confusing to you, and that's fine. That is completely okay. Everything we've typed right now has nothing to do with what we're learning today. This is just kind of the stuff we needed to get going. But int main is your main function, and it's going to return a value of 0. But that's not important right now. Now spacing in C++ does not matter, but I like to make it look pretty. Space it out, make sure everything is legible. You're able to read it, because sure, 5, 6 lines, 9 lines of a program, that's not that big of a deal. But say you have 100,000 lines, and you just, let me go ahead and back this up. Okay, and you just bunched everything together. This will work. This will work just fine. Imagine 100,000 lines like that, especially if you let somebody else read it. They'll have no idea what's going on. So, and you'll learn the format I like to use and what a lot of people use as we go along. So we're just going to keep this nice and pretty, kind of space everything out. Now, click inside, right inside of your open brace here, and hit enter. And you'll see it auto tabs. It should do that for you in most compilers, but Visual Studio especially, it helps you keep things pretty. Now we're going to output some text to the screen. So the way we do that is type C out, which is output, means we want to output something to the screen. and then you want to put less than sign, and that's saying we're going to output and then the next part. This is where we're going to put our text. So all text is going to be put inside of quotations. So you're going to type hello world. And then come outside of your quotations, and we want to end that line of code with a semicolon. All lines of code are ended with a semicolon. Hit enter. And now, well, I'll show you why. I'll tell you what, don't hit enter just yet. Now come up here to build, and you're going to build solution. Now all this is going to do is it's basically going to put it all together and make sure you have no errors. Now you can always come to build and then build solution, or you can hit F7. So we're going to build it, and basically this is going to make sure this is error checking pretty much. The compiler is going to take all this code, mash it all together, and make sure it runs. And it does. Here in our output it says build succeeded. 0 failed, 0 up to date. Now if you want to, come up here, little play button, and click it. And this is going to run your program. And you see it just opened and closed instantly. You was barely able to even see the hello world. And if I wasn't running OBS, you wouldn't see it, because that's slowing my computer down. Well, the reason it's doing that is when the program starts, it comes up here. It's like, okay, we're going to include these files. We're going to include these files. We're going to use namespace std. It says, okay, we have a main function called main. And it's going to see that it's going to see out hello world. It's going to display it to the screen. Then it's going to return 0, which means end of the program. It's over. And then there's no more code. So it runs all of this, and then it's over. Then it just closes it out. The program ran as it was supposed to. It was successful. The problem for us is we wasn't able to see the results of it, because it just ran all the way through, top to bottom, ended, happy-go-lucky. But what if we want to see our work, what we did? Well, click right here under cout, and what we're going to do is we're going to type system, parentheses, inside this parentheses, put quotation marks, and type pause. Then come outside your parentheses, semicolon. Now let's make sure we didn't mess something up. I'm going to press F7 to build it. Make sure everything's working just fine. And it is. We have a succeed, which is what we want. So now let's run our program. And it stayed open. It says hello world, and then it says press any key to continue. Now you see, this is not very nice. You know, it's hard to read, it's bunched together. So let's fix that real quick. And the way we fix that is we're going to add a new line character. So come back up here, right behind hello world, put 2 more less than symbols, space, and type end L, which means end line. And then run that again. You'll see what that does. And there you go. Now it's a little more pretty. It moved this down to the next line. And now it says press any key to continue. If we press any key, it ends the program. So basically the system pause just adds that, what's the word I'm looking for? Either way, it throws that up there where it says press any key to continue. It pauses the program at that moment. It says press any key to continue. And when you do, that comes down here, return 0, which exits this function, which exits the program. Now this end line character means that no matter what, there will be no more information on the line where hello world is. And you can put more information on this line before that. So you could, add double quotes. Let's go ahead and put our less than symbols behind that to be sure. And we could say, there is more to this line. Make sure you put it inside quotations and then run it. There's also a problem with this, and you will see it when it comes up. But we were able to put more on this line, but you see the problem. This is like one big word. And that's because even spaces are considered characters here. So to fix that, just put a space right there in front of that, and then run it again. And there we go. Perfect. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and come back again because there's way more to learn. Y'all have a fantastic day.